Hello there, listener. My name is Chris Ringler, and this is the Spooky Chris Podcast, my micro podcast form. I am a writer, weirdo, two-time short filmmaker, full-time oddball, and this is my little dance. I kind of ramble about a lot of topics on here, not that anyone hears them, but, we do what we can. And it occurred to me the other day I wanted to talk about kind of the insidiousness that has hit the United States. And it's been growing over years and years, but let's be real about this for a minute. In the last almost 4 years. And it's weird as someone, on the verge of welcoming a child, let alone a daughter, into this world. To be blunt, it scares the hell out of me. Because I have seen the world become something that I don't wish on my daughter. When I was a kid, I'm 46. When I was a kid, we were taught you can kind of be anything, you can do anything. Dream it and do it and strive and try your hardest and you'll be okay and you'll find yourself and this dream. And it's weird, as I've gotten older, the dream has kind of died. And it's definitely my generation is for sure involved in this. Not wholly though. The blood is kind of on everyone's hands, where we have started to look at generations that aren't our own and we go, God, they're lazy. God, they don't do anything. Why can't they do something for themselves? And there's this weirdness, and I think this does start to come from boomers, is this idea of an inherent laziness to a generation where, well, they didn't have to go to war and they didn't have to do this and they get bailed out by mommy and daddy. It's weird. I lived at home till I was 27. I was blessed to do that. My folks paid for my college. I was, I was a spoiled white kid from the burbs. Spoiled in that, in a middle class kind of way. I got my first car was given to me, but it was my grandma's 77th Century. So it wasn't like I was high end spoiled. But I wear my privilege every day of my life, and while I don't always, realize it, it's hard to get away from it. But it's strange that we have, our society, American society, is interesting in that we want our own. I'm gonna get mine is the turn of phrase of this day. Like, I'm gonna get mine. I want to get paid. I want what's coming to me. I want my 15 minutes of fame. I want what's mine. And we always want that, but then when someone else wants the same thing, they're lazy, they are grifters, they are plaguing society, and they're just scumbags. I'm brought to the funny modern insanity where you have one, rich, well-off, spoiled white kid in a Hunter Biden who, whatever is in his life, he was kind of his dad took care of him and got him a cushy gig. Happens all the time. I'm not going to say it should or shouldn't happen. It happens all the time. And he is painted as this villain and this, all these terrible things. His past is drug up. And he is portrayed as this horrible, awful person, where we have the Trump children, who are all grifters, who've been living on Dad's dollar for years, and Ivanka's been living on her looks for years. And then their father got into office, and they all got jobs with the presidency suddenly. And they all have security details and go on these trips which a trip for a politician, it's a vacation basically where they talk to a couple people about something. But it's still essentially a vacation. For you and me, it'd be a vacation. Anybody that actually works and still has to check their email, it'd be a vacation. But it's interesting, this weird flex that Hunter Biden is a villain, but the Trump children are somehow these great standard bearers for freedom when they've never done anything on their own. They've never stepped away from daddy and stood on their own feet. The one daughter who wasn't considered part of the posse suddenly joined in when she saw she could grift on it too. Geez, sorry. But I'm not really here to talk about them per se. It's just this idea that once upon a time, we raised children to be dreamers. And then when, as we got further along, we decided they're weak and they're lazy and they're, unmasculine and they're not tough anymore and they're all of these terrible things. And it's funny, so when I was a kid, kids got, I remember we'd do the field day is what they called it. And everybody got ribbons, participation ribbon. And I mean, for me, hey, you participated, you tried. I certainly didn't go around acting as if I had won anything grand. But I never have seen an issue with participation merits. Because again, it says you tried, you gave effort, you worked on this. And some kids work harder than others. But then this whole masculine thing of like, I don't want a weak kid. I don't want somebody with a participation trophy. Like, it became a sign of weakness. Now, I'm sure there are kids out there that were like, yeah, participation. But that falls in the whole category of parents teaching their kids. One, we need to teach kids that they're not, just because they didn't come in first, they're not a loser. That whole nonsense is crap, because none of us are apt to become the CEO. Which, if we're not CEO, then we're the losers, aren't we? We get in this weird thing where it's this or that. There's no middle. It's either you're a winner or you're a loser. I don't want to be no loser. And it usually that kind of stuff usually comes from parents who aren't winning themselves. Either that, they're kind of seen as losers, or they see themselves as losers, or they were super alphas and they want someone basically to relive their life, which is insanity to me. I don't want my daughter to relive my life. I lived it. I want her to live her own life. I want her to live her happiness and her truth and to just shout it out. I'm excited to see that. But if she gets stoked because she got like a ribbon or a trophy because she worked her butt off, and yeah, she didn't win, but she participated, I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to get upset about it. It comes to parents to teach our kids, to teach them like, hey, yeah, this is great, you participated. Maybe next time, you can get one of the places. Well, how do I do that? Well, you try harder, you work harder, you work more than someone else. That's where the teaching stuff comes in, is you take that participation merit and you say, hey, that's great, good for you, because we should always be building our kids up. As someone who has always been suicidal and has huge emotional issues, we need to be built up. And if you're like, well, it's weakness, you can just adios, because I don't need you listening anyways, and you're not hearing anything I'm saying, so you can just go listen to your Tough Guy podcast. Because we need to care about each other more, because there's so much hate in this world, and I'm getting to that actually, that we need to raise more kids that love. It doesn't make them weak, because you teach kids that, hey, just because you love someone doesn't make them right. Just because you love someone doesn't give them power over you. But, this whole idea that we have to, it's as if we're trying to recapture some kind of modern version of the Trojan weeding out where it's like, oh, my kid's not tough enough, I'm going to throw him over a cliff. And I think part of it is we get it. We get how hard the world is. But we don't work to make it better. We just like, well, that's how the world is. You better toughen up. Instead of trying to like, hey, this world sucks. Why don't we work to make it better so my kid doesn't have it as hard as somebody else's kid? We just don't want to do, and it's hard work. We don't know where to start. And we don't want to do the hard work. But stuff like a participation trophy, that's a teaching point. One, celebrate your kid. There's not much in life we get to celebrate. I mean, truly, if you break it down, we're going to have more days at work in our lives where we are trod upon and bummed out and hurt by people. And we deserve to once in a while be celebrated. But also, with those participation things, again, inspire your kids. Say, hey, that's great. Maybe we can do a little better next time, and you know, do better than a participation thing. Whatever. Because if that's their thing, if they're like, oh, no, I love softball, I love baseball, I really, this is my thing. Oh, cool. Well, next time, let's work on it together, and maybe next time, blah, blah, blah. But if they're like, well, no, it's not my thing, then we need to accept it. Because, again, there, too, they need to live their lives. Like, they can't live our lives. We can't keep telling kids, like, we should inspire kids. We should gently kind of push them so that they don't just kind of not do anything. So they don't like, oh, I won't do anything. I'm never going to be good. And everybody hates me. And no, they need encouragement. They need to be kind of pushed a little bit. But if they don't want to do sports, if they don't want to do art, if they don't want to do whatever, if it's not a detriment to them, let them make that choice. Because if they want to, they'll come to it on their own. And we need to accept that too. But I worry about my daughter because we've created this insidious, awful world based around Donald Trump. He has become a beacon that has tapped into such an awfulness in Americans that has always been there. It's not like racism and homophobia and classism and Nazis and all this stuff has been hidden. It's not like it's not been there. It just hasn't been brought out as much because we haven't had anybody in office who's like, oh, good people on both sides, or well, I don't know, I've heard good things, and just he is such like a child that it's astounding to me that he could ever have been elected. Outside of, we just had a black president, the first black president, so you had pushback. You had a lot of people didn't want to be progressive enough to have a woman, so he came in like, oh, we're going to make America great. And it's one of those things that's a great slogan for people because we always look back, oh gosh, the 80s were so great. The 70s, the 60s and 50s. But we never really seem to stop and ask what made it great. And was it great for everyone or great for me and my race? I for sure wouldn't want to go back to the 50s or 60s or 70s, 80s, 90s. I lived through some of those. I don't want to go back. Cultural stuff. We let the cultural stuff dictate kind of what we think the social should be. Like, oh man, I loved 50s cars. I loved 60s music. Oh, I loved the fashion of the 80s. 70s movies were so great. 70s had Vietnam. 70s had Watergate. 70s had a gas crisis. 70s had the end of the hippie era and the official, obviously, but end of the 60s where violence came in. The 70s, kind of the blinders were pulled off, and suddenly we saw kind of war for what it was, and that it's not that heroic, that it's gruesome and depressing and miserable, and there's not always a resolution. It's just both sides, often just kind of walking away, or the one that has more to lose walks away, because it's just like, you know what, this wasn't a great idea. The 80s brought AIDS and a presidency that again started pushing conservative values, which cool, whatever. But those conservative values were based around Christianity, which we're not a religious nation. People can tell you all they want, but the whole point of everyone coming over here was so we wouldn't be a strictly A, B, or C religious nation. Censorship started in the 80s. I mean, you started getting this whole, like, I hate PC and political correctness mentality that swept into the 90s, which is always funny to me because it's like, so political correctness is just another person's way of complaining that they don't want to change how they think, act, talk, because it hurts someone's feelings. And to say, quote unquote, hurt someone's feelings is, to put it mildly, it's saying that a stab wound is a scrape kind of a thing. It's like, well, someone who has transitioned from a man to a woman doesn't want to be called by their dead name. They don't want to be called a man. Well, that's what they was born as. Well, that's not who they are, though. They get to choose who they are because it's their body, their life, their choice. So you don't get to be mad because it's PC just to call them a woman when they's a man. It's not PC. It's just correct. Culture, society, all that evolves. Language evolves, and we need to evolve with it. And it moves pretty fast. Culture is moving very fast right now. Society is moving very fast. Doesn't always mean it's right. Doesn't always mean it is proper and correct. And sometimes we're going to see course corrections. You know, you'll see people like freak out and blast someone for their past when the person blasting them has their own past that they wouldn't want revealed. And you know, everybody likes to be the person on the end of the pitchfork, holding the pitchfork, and not at the end of it. But we've let Trump bring out the worst of us. To imagine, so Mexico's always been there, but suddenly we've decided, and I mean, we have issues with Mexico, they have issues with us. Their drug culture wouldn't probably be as strong as it was if Americans weren't going down looking for drugs or other things illegally. I mean, there's the old kind of joke about going to Tijuana to see the donkey show. Americans looked at Mexico, probably still do, as this great wasteland where it's like we get to go down there, and we look at a lot of countries this way, and we just do whatever we want. It's our free pass. So we get to go, and it's kind of, we treat it like the whole Vegas, like, oh, don't ask about what happens in Vegas because it stays there. You know, we think going to these other countries and we don't have to have any consequence. But yeah, so we're part of the problem. But suddenly with Trump, we're like, oh, hey, gosh, we don't want those people here. And I mean, faux show, we don't want illegal aliens coming here and not becoming citizens because it doesn't help anybody. They have to live in hiding. They can't really completely transition into Americans, ergo they can't be a part of the system and part of making this a better country. They can't be taxed the same, can't be counted the same, can't vote. So yeah, I get it. Like there's stowaways in the bottom of the ship, but we should always be working to make those legal aliens, as it were, instead of making them outlaws. And I would think that any country, like Americans shouldn't be going to Canada or any country and just kind of hanging out unseen. If you decide to take residence in another country, you should become legalized. And we should make that process more streamlined and better instead of treating certain countries that they're not Aryan and white as if they are criminals and they're gonna bring us all down and take our jobs. Because here's the thing: if you're so bad at your job, if I am so bad at my job that someone can just like break the border and pop up here illegally and take my job from me, that's on me. Like, they're taking lower paying manufacturing, manual labor kind of jobs. They're not taking the jobs we want. So they ain't taking anything. You can just throw that right away. But so suddenly we're building this expensive, flimsy wall, between us and a country that has been an ally. Now, again, we have issues with one another, but that's neighbors. We have started rounding up the people that cross the border and put them in internment camps, basically, and have left them. And that's just so monstrous to me. And what we've done with those kids, that they've been lost in the system. And people will go, well, their parents shouldn't have brought them over here illegally. They should have done it the right way. We don't give people the chance to do it the right way. We make it so you have to cross this way, because we have a process that takes years. So if your family is afraid of violence and poverty and all of these things, in America, the United States used to be, hold the torch up high and say, we are the melting pot. Come and have a new life and a new start, because we are a nation of immigrants, which we forget all the time. There were Native Americans here, but we invaded the whole rest of us and kind of took it over. So we're all immigrants. Like, we immigrated at some point. We came here at some point, or we were enslaved and brought here. So very, very few of us started here. But we don't see that anymore. We just see our agenda and our white people, really. But we see our anger and our hate and our fear. We're afraid of being overthrown and of them taking our culture. And it's like, bro, our culture has always been a mishmash. We're a little European. We're a little Eastern Asia. We're a little South American. We're a little Mexican. We're a little Canadian. We're a little African. Our culture is everything. Again, that was one of our talking points for the country is, yay, we're part of everything. But we just love to shout at people to go back where they came from, because there's suddenly no room for anybody. Only room for Americans. Yet we won't let people choose to be an American. And it's funny, too, because we do this. We put people in these camps. We're treating them inhumanely. We're letting them get sick and die. We're not treating them like humans because they're illegal. We don't... See, and the thing is, too, it's like, okay, cool, you came illegally, turn them around, head them back. There you go. Say, hey, sorry, you got to come in the right way, blah, blah, blah. Don't hold them illegally, and just leave them. Because then they're on our dime, they're on our clock, they're on our blood's on our hands now. Because we're making the choice to hold on to them, but not let them become legal. And we have made them into monsters. And sure, much like everything else, of course there are people who are not quote-unquote good people that are crossing. Absolutely. Much like there's Americans that cross the border, any border, all the time, smuggling drugs. Take a look at the international news once in a while, and you'll see what I mean. But beyond that, we have let the uptick in needless deaths of people of color become a political thing, where you're either for the police or you're against them. We've allowed this movement, which it was people fighting for equal justice, and they looked around and said, you know what, our lives matter. I'm a black person, my life matters, Black Lives Matter. We've allowed that to become this political, weird, cancerous statement that suddenly means white lives don't matter, or other colored people's lives don't matter. Well, all lives matter. Of course they do, stupid. It's saying, though, hey, there's been an uptick of violence against people of color, ergo black people. Our lives, black lives, matter. That is not to say white lives do not matter, because violence against anyone that kills them needlessly, unwarranted, is awful. all life matters. But by shouting in people's faces who are watching the news and seeing innocent people murdered, like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, murdered and not shown justice, whatever they did. And Breonna Taylor was not doing anything illegal per se, well, at all, per se. So she was asleep in her bed, and the cops screwed up. We'll say Joe Smith out in the world. Joe Smith broke the law. Well, Joe Smith, even if he broke the law, he deserves to face justice. He deserves the process of justice. Cops don't have the right to dole out rough justice and accidentally kill them by not following their own protocols. That's injustice. People fighting against injustice are not your enemy. We all should want justice for one another. That's what this country's for. Letting the Black Lives Matter movement become this political football for Trump, where he gets to say, oh, they're just villains, they're terrible people. But then he stands by white supremacists who have risen in power, and these neo-Nazis who have risen in power and suddenly are standing out in the open. I mean, can you imagine 20 years ago, people without masks out in the open with Nazi flags, flying this stuff, parading around, carrying weapons of war. I mean, I don't want to hear your nonsense like, well, those are just long guns. You can hunt with them. You can do it. Yeah, whatever. They're weapons of intimidation. You don't have an AK. You don't have a long gun with a clip if it's not a weapon of intimidation. You're not going hunting with it. Let's be real here. You can pretend you're going to guard your house with it, but if you're in such a bad area that you need essentially a semi-automatic weapon to protect yourself, I'd invest in a new home or a better security system because you're doing something wrong. But we have these people who they're desperate to play war. They have been looking for excuses to kind of come out from the shadows. And it's a mix of these neo-Nazis and supremacists and these anarchists who want to see the world burn, who want to be able to take their bigotry and hatred out and pull it from the closet. Like, there's always been Nazi paraphernalia collectors, but it was rarely people that had the stuff out in the open. They would have like a little thing tucked away somewhere. Now it's a thing again. And it's funny that, a leader that wasn't what he promoted, ergo Aryan, because Hitler wasn't, and who shot himself so he wouldn't have to stand trial and go through that because he wasn't a tough guy. And they think that he is such a bastion of liberty and what people need to be. It's crazy. And we both sides everything. Well, yeah, but we're not even doing it now. We've like a movement started called Antifa, anti-fascist. We have decided anti-fascists are villains. Again, I get it. There are members of all of these social groups that are a-holes that want to burn things, but they're not really part of the movement. They're just essentially anarchists that are using that flag and flying it around. They are, but there's a point where those folks and the other side get real close to one another. But the movements themselves, that's not what they're about. Antifa's a little more in your face because they're standing face to face with the Nazis and the Klansmen and the supremacists and shouting them down. I don't have to agree with all of their tactics, but I do understand that they became necessary because we stopped pushing back on these people. We were like, well, they have a right to believe what they want. We're in America. They have a right to say what they want. Sure. But there's consequence. And in America, you shouldn't be heralded as some hero because you say racist, horrible things and then say, well, what? Everybody's thinking it. we shouldn't have a leader that is heralded because he talks like the people. Oh gosh, he just says what people think. Well, then people should be taught better, because we shouldn't think that way. Things have become so insidious. We beat our chests when we bully other nations. We pull out of, like, how can we deny what is happening to this planet? If you look at the Earth and what's happening with the climate, and you can say, "Oh God, no, this is supposed to happen. This is God's will. This is what should happen." You're insane. We have chosen profit, short-term profit, over the long-term health of the only planet we've ever been on that we can, like, live on, that we have any kind of future in. It's crazy to me. It's insane. But we've made it political. All science matters. We have taken the people who are trying to warn us, this virus can kill you, where we have over 1 million dead on this planet in the last, it's October, so we'll say 10 months. And people want to push back like, well, we need to get herd immunity. That's not how it works. Well, it's overblown. 1 million dead ain't overblown. And for herd immunity, cool. Do you want to be the first one to line up to get COVID, to volunteer to get COVID? Because you're not going to be treated like the president. Who, again, he's the president, so he gets all manner of kind of experimental, whatever it is, because he's the president. That's how it works. So do you want to line up and take one for the team and hope for the best, and hope that you, as a general person, go through the whole process and are cured? You'll get it and are cured. You'll never get it again. Because I wouldn't want to be the first. I wouldn't want to trust that. I don't want to risk my life and hope for the best. We always say that stuff because it's someone else. It's someone else going to take that hit for the team. We want to YOLO it up all the time. Like, well, I got to go. I still have to go to weddings. I still have to go party. I still have to go to the bar. I can't just live in my house. Yeah, you can. We can pretty much have anything we want delivered. Now, it sucks because it's still putting people at risk, but it's putting less at risk. And hopefully those people are being taught and being trained to be precautious and take precautions so they don't get sick. And they should be compensated and at least tipped because they're taking the hit for the team. Yeah, everybody hates this. Everybody hates living in COVID time because it sucks. The world is different. But if we would just get our stuff together and act like adults and not petulant children, we would get past this. Again, another political tool in the box of a fraud. A man who doesn't want his taxes revealed, who has said the most horrible things about people, has called countries terrible things, has made fun of people. He makes fun of his adversaries regularly, says the most offensive things, and then is heralded because, well, he's just saying what he wants. He's a hero. He's never been heroic in his life. And it's sad how much damage this one human-sized wrecking ball has done to this country and to what we considered America and democracy. He has been held up by a party that has gone rotten from the inside. They are about money and false Christianity. And that's part of the insidiousness. And none of this is to say the Democrats don't have blood on their hands, because they do, of course. They play the same games. They allow the same crap. But they just haven't been this outright evil, thankfully. It's funny how many of us want to be in other people's bedrooms, though, and in other people's bathrooms, and in other people's pants. We want to dictate what everyone else does while we do what we want. We live our lives. We want to tell people what bathrooms they can go into, or who they can have sex with, or who they can love, and who they can marry. All while we are told, hey, just wear a mask. Whatever you're going to do, just wear a mask and be careful, and we won't. So it's funny that we want to point fingers while we sidestep someone else's pointing and go, well, you can't do that to me. I'm American. I have freedoms. Don't curtail my freedoms. And we want all this freedom without the cost. It's just like we want to have bags of money without cost. We want infinite credit so we can buy all the toys we want. But when they come back to get repaid, we're like, well, I don't have that. Why would you want that money back? I mean, I thought you were just giving it to me. And I believe in hope. I believe there's hope in my daughter and in your children and in children to come and people that are still here now and the elderly that have seen it all and can help us guide us through this, because there is a life after Trump and after Trumpism and after this hatred. Man, it's scary though. When a man that has never earned any of what he has been heralded as this icon, where people spend all of this money on stupid merch to plaster their homes and themselves in. It's so weird. It's weird because it's almost like some of these people believe in him more than they believe in the very faith they claim to have. They follow his words and can quote him more than they can quote Jesus, for goodness sake. It's crazy. But I believe in hope. I believe there is hope. I believe there is, in bringing this into the light and seeing it for what it is and saying to ourselves and to children, there's a better way. None of us are perfect. None of us are better than one another. None of us have some golden ticket that allows us to get away with things. We all have to kind of be responsible for ourselves and for our crimes and our damage and our sins. But we can also always do better. We can also always be better. We can also always see past it. We can reach out to one another. Not towards the throat, but towards the hand, towards the heart, and take one another's hands and hearts and try to find a better way. And you know what, baby? If that's socialism, I'm all in. Because we love to throw around these scary terms that no one understands. I'm more for humanism and in seeing one another for our value. And seeing this planet, our home, as valuable. This election isn't going to change the world. Not overnight. It's going to take generations to get to wash the blood away. We have to pray that these people we have penned for years, that these children we've kept in cages, don't become the enemies of the next generation of our kids, that they don't become the next terrorists that we've made happily. It's a long road forward, and it's a scary one, and we've let this country become an insidious thing, a mockery of what we stood for. And it's going to take a long time to change that, but it's up to us, because ain't nobody else going to do it. Friend, I wish you the best. Stay healthy, stay safe. We will talk soon.